Let's talk about something we all think we know like the back of our hand, the alphabet. But what if I told you that one of the biggest superpowers you can give a child on their path to becoming a reader is just teaching them the names of the letters? It sounds simple, I know, but let's dive into why it's so incredibly important. You've seen it 1,000 times, right? A little kid proudly singing their ABCs, maybe mixing up a few letters. It's adorable, but is that all it is? Is it just a cute memory game, a fun little tune they've learned? Well, you might think so, but the research tells a completely different and way more fascinating story. Get this. It turns out that this one simple skill, just being able to name the letters of the alphabet, is one of the single best clues we have about a child's future reading ability. We're talking decades of research here. It's not just a game, it's a critical piece of the whole literacy puzzle. Okay, so let's dig into that. How can we be so sure that knowing letter names is such a game changer? Well, the evidence is pretty much overwhelming. Think about these huge studies that follow kids for years. They all find the same thing, over and over again. There's this direct, powerful link. The more letter names a child knows when they walk into kindergarten, the more likely they are to learn to read smoothly and with less struggle. And we're not talking about a small connection here. National research reviews have basically cemented this as fact. Just let that sink in. Of all the things a 5-year-old might know, counting, colors, shapes, you name it, just being able to point to a letter and say its name stands out as one of the most reliable signs of how well they'll be reading years down the road. So the big question is, why? What is the magic behind a letter's name? Well, it's not magic at all. It's actually a really brilliant feature of how our brains are wired to learn. Let's break down how this actually works. So, first things first, our written language is basically a code. Every single one of these little shapes we call a letter is really just a symbol for a specific sound. To learn to read, a child has to crack that code. And this is where this idea of anchoring labels comes into play. To a little kid, a shape like B is just a bunch of lines. It's totally abstract. But the second you give it a name, B, their brain suddenly has a hook. It's like creating a mental file folder where it can store everything it learns about that shape. The name makes it real. And this process is so important. So first, the child sees the shape. Then they learn its name, B. And that name acts like a bridge, making it way, way easier for them to then learn and attach the letter's sound, that B sound, to that shape. The name is the crucial middleman. And here's the coolest part. The code has a built-in cheat sheet. The names of so many letters, like B, D, and V, actually contain their main sound, usually right at the beginning. Kids are smart. They pick up on this, and they use the letter's name as a clue to help them figure out its sound. It's genius. Okay, so letter names help a kid crack the code, but their power goes even deeper than that. They're actually helping to build the brain systems a child needs for fluent reading. Think of a child's brain like a computer with a certain amount of processing power. If they have to struggle just to figure out what a letter is, they have very little mental energy left for the really hard work of sounding out a word. But if they know their letters automatically, it frees up all that brain power for the real task at hand, which is decoding. It also helps lock those shapes into their long-term memory for good. And these skills are totally connected. It's not a one-way street. It's this awesome two-way exchange. Knowing letter names helps a child learn sounds, and as their awareness of sounds gets better, it actually makes their knowledge of the letters even stronger. It's this powerful, positive feedback loop. So, because this skill is so fundamental, it also means that when a child has a hard time with it, it can be a really important early signal for parents and teachers. The research is pretty clear that kids who start school knowing very few letters are at a higher risk for reading difficulties down the line. They often need more focused instruction, and it can take them longer to build that confidence they need to really engage with books. But, and this is the most important part, this is not a sign of failure. It is not a life sentence. It's much better to think of it as an early warning light on a car's dashboard. It's an opportunity for us to step in and give targeted support right when it can make the biggest difference and help prevent bigger struggles from ever happening. Okay, so let's pull back and put all this into perspective. In the grand scheme of things, where does knowing the alphabet really fit? I love this metaphor that the research gives us. Knowing your letter names is the doorway to reading, not the entire house. It's not the final destination, but It's the only way to get inside.
Because once you're through that door, you can start building all the other amazing parts of the house, really connecting letters to their sounds, building a huge vocabulary, developing an ear for all the little sounds in our language, and of course, the ultimate goal, understanding what you read. But if you can't get through that doorway first, it's almost impossible to build anything else.
All right, let's bring this all home. What's the main takeaway from all of this research? What should we remember?
It's so clear that learning letter names is so much more than just memorizing a song. It's this foundational skill that predicts success by giving a child's brain the mental hooks it needs to make sense of print. It helps them crack the code, it frees up that precious brain power for the real work of reading, and it lays the entire groundwork for becoming literate.
So the next time you hear a kid singing their ABCs, or you see them point to a letter and shout its name, just remember what's really going on under the hood. They aren't just learning a symbol. They are literally building the architecture of a reading brain. They're forging the key that is going to unlock the entire world of written language.